Hi, I'm Hannah.
And I'm Matt Hannah.
And this is Horror Hour with the Hannahs,
where we like to talk about all your favorite scary movies.
And today we're talking about Terrifier.
And this is from 2016, and this is the first time both of us have seen it.
Yeah, so this film was written and directed by Damien Leone, starring David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown. This movie actually had only a $35,000 budget, which is pretty cool.
I'm more impressed by it now after knowing that.
Yes.
And the reason we're covering is because Terrifier 3 is about to come out.
It comes out on October 11th. So this week, if you're listening to this the week that this episode comes out, then that means that it is coming out after. But yeah, so it has spawned 2 sequels, Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3. Fun fact about Terrifier 3 is France has actually banned viewers under the age of 18 from seeing the film, which is the first time such a ban has been issued since the release of Saw 3.
Saw 3 is pretty gross.
Yeah.
So, okay.
But yeah, it's been 18 years since they've had to do that.
That's like a big publicity stunt. I feel like a lot of times is like trying to have that happen and making a big deal about it.
Yeah.
For these more kind of torture porn type movies.
And the press for Terrifier 3 has been making a big deal about people like throwing up and having to leave theaters or passing out while seeing the movie. Which feels a bit dramatic personally, but I mean, if it's getting people to go see a movie, go ahead, dog.
Sure. And for those listening on Spotify or YouTube, we're actually doing this on TikTok Live as well today. So if you hear us interact with anybody jumping on, that is why. So we're going to just leave it all in and go for it. See if it adds another element.
Yep.
Maybe YouTube Live in the future too. We'll see.
So definitely follow us on TikTok if you ever want to catch us doing a live.
Yeah, you'll get a early episode. Sometimes weeks or 2.
Yeah, honestly. So some more fun facts is this film is actually based off a character from Damien Leone's short film. So he had a short film in 2006 called The Ninth Circle. And then he did another short in 2011 called Terrifier, and both featured Art the Clown. And then those shorts generated interest for an anthology film, All Hallows Eve, that came out in 2013. And in that, they made it clear that Art the Clown is supernatural, not just a human in a clown suit. And so I think that kind of adds an element to watching the film where I don't think that that's super clear until the end, where he's not dead after being clearly murdered.
Spoilers for a 10-year-old movie.
Yeah.
Not 10, 8.
But yeah, clearly like there was enough interest in the character that this movie ended up getting made.
No, it's all very interesting. I definitely makes me, I guess, respect it a little more. He definitely had an idea and wants to continue to run with it. Mm-hmm. But do we want to jump into our initial thoughts? No, you got more?
Obviously, I do.
Oh, my bad. I'm not supposed to read your notes. I was getting in trouble.
I know, but then jumped up ahead.
Okay, my bad.
So David Howard Thornton is the actor who plays Art the Clown. And apparently he was previously a mime. So it makes this role pretty fitting for him. Apparently, during the audition, he mimed tasting a beheaded victim's blood and then added salt to improve its flavor, and that quirky piece of miming won him the role.
Well, I'll have to be real critical. I don't know why we call him Art the Clown, because he is very clearly a mime, and they are 2 very different things. So I think this is mime erasure in this movie.
Mime erasure, you're so right. It really is. Well, the actor has also described Art as evil Mr. Bean.
Sure.
I thought that was really funny.
This guy that plays Art, I thought was pretty fun. I was impressed by him.
He's the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Agreed.
A last fun fact. Apparently, while trying to think of like very original horror scenes, Damien Leone had read books about medieval forms of torture for inspiration, and that's what led him to come up with Dawn's death scene where she's sawed in half.
That also makes sense. That scene was pretty gross. I have heard of that in medieval torture. So
yeah. Honestly,
some have long ways, we should say.
Pro tip for any film creators who are trying to think of something, some unique torture. Definitely just look up medieval torture. So now we can go into general thoughts on the film.
Sure. Okay, so first time I've ever seen it. I will be kind of critical. I did not particularly like this movie very much. I know a lot of people in the horror space really like it. For me, it's a no, and it's not because it's gross. I think it's because it doesn't do anything interesting with its like grossness. It almost felt like corporate torture porn is the best way I would put it. Where it's like, it felt pretty run of the mill and almost like industry plant style is what I've heard other people call it. And I do think that's a funny description. But I'll get more into that later.
It felt gross just for the sake of being gross. And that's not my type of film. If there is body horror or something gross, but it builds on something that's already in the plot, that doesn't bother me at all. For example, The Substance just came out, and that very much... the body horror is integral to the story. That's cool with me, dog. This, obviously, it's integral to the story, but it just doesn't feel necessary.
It felt like the only purpose of this movie was trying to be gross, versus I do find The Substance, if we're doing that at more recent body horror comparison, like it's doing so much more as a film, where I felt with Terrifier, it was one note in a lot of ways. And I don't even think it was that particularly good. For $35,000, actually, it was amazing what it did in terms of effects. But I don't think it's like actually that great at it outside of like the budget, you know?
No.
So that's my thought on it. Do we want to do that? That's our initial thoughts. Do we want to do 15-second summaries and then we can get into it even more?
Sounds good.
Cool. Okay. You want to go first since I have my phone out?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been doing a timer for 7 hours now on accident. That's fun.
Yeah, do you know what that was originally
I do know. It's for work. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, go.
Okay. Crazy mime clown murders people in stupid ways.
Man, that's basically... you summed it up. Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole movie.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay.
All right, yeah, sadistic mind killer, just saws a lady in half, does a lot of other crazy stuff, isn't overly interesting, but seems to just really like to brutalize people.
Yep, pretty much.
Okay. Well, I will do the full plot description now for everyone out there. And everyone on TikTok Live, I apologize. This one's short, though. So
yeah, give us the summary.
Okay, so the summary for Terrifier is, on her talk show, the host Monica Brown, on her show, talk show host Monica Brown interviews a severely disfigured woman, the sole survivor of a massacre that took place the previous Halloween. Brown mentions that the body of the mysterious killer, known only as Art the Clown, disappeared from the morgue. When the disfigured woman insists she saw him die, Art, watching the program, destroys his TV, changes into costume, and fills a garbage bag with weapons. Later in her dressing room, Monica makes disparaging remarks about the interviewee's appearance. The disfigured woman, who's been eavesdropping, attacks Monica and gouges out her eyes. On Halloween night, two friends, Tara and Dawn, drunkenly leave a party and encounter Art, who follows them to a pizzeria. Art is kicked out by the restaurant owner for smearing poop all over the bathroom walls. The girls discover that Dawn's car tire has been slashed, and Tara calls her sister Vicky to pick them up. Art returns to the pizzeria, killing two workers. While waiting, Tara asks a pest control worker, Mike, to be let into an apartment building he's working on to use the restroom. There, she encounters the cat lady, a deluded squatter who believes the doll she carries is her infant child. Art attacks Dawn and subdues Tara with a sedative. Tara awakens bound to a chair to see Dawn suspended upside down. Art forces her to watch as he saws Dawn in half long ways. Tara escapes, but he shoots her to death, then attacks Mike. The cat lady discovers Art with her doll, and in her plea for the return of her child, attempts to show motherly compassion by cradling him. Vicky arrives and discovers Art, who has mutilated the cat lady and is wearing her skin. Art chases her and decapitates Mike's coworker, Will. Vicky finds her sister's corpse as Art attacks her with a makeshift cat o' nine tails. Mike knocks Art unconscious. The two flee and call 911. Art recovers and kills Mike, then hits Vicky with a pickup truck. As she lies unconscious, Art begins to eat her face. The police arrive, but Art shoots himself before he can be apprehended. After the police discover Vicky is still alive, Art's body and those of his victims are taken to a morgue where Art reanimates and attacks the medical examiner. 1 year later, Vicky is released from the hospital after rehabilitation. She is revealed to be the disfigured woman from the film's opening. Thus, the events of the movie showed the massacre that took place the previous year. And there you go.
What a thrill.
What a thrill. Well, Okay, so what do we want to talk about now? Exactly what we liked, didn't like?
I'm going to be super critical here and say the only thing that I liked was his performance.
Art and the budget. That was about it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think considering the budget, this movie is, like, pretty good. But that makes me think, like, if the rest of the movies are of this quality, but more money, which I don't know if that's the case, because we're only covering the first one, so I only looked up the first one, then that makes me dislike the future ones even more.
Well, I have heard a lot of people do like the second one. I guess I'd be interested, but I do agree. Did not particularly enjoy this movie for a lot of reasons. I think, like I said before, some of the effects were cool, especially for the budget. And art, it was a good performance, but that's really all you have going for you.
He is a really compelling performer. We've said this in other episodes. If you can put on a good performance while not speaking, just with your facial expressions, that is extremely, extremely impressive. And that was certainly the case for this movie for Art. He doesn't say words. Everything you're getting is just from his face. And it is pretty incredible, honestly. Just like his movement, his face, love it.
I'm going to fix something really quick and I'll be back. We're having lighting issues. Okay,
obviously.
That's better. So, yeah, for those on Spotify, I'm not editing out. Come watch our TikTok lives.
Maybe we should edit it
No,
out.
no. Too much work for me. It's due. The episode comes out tomorrow. So, sorry. We're back. So I will say, yeah, I agree with pretty much all the things you felt. I found myself getting very bored by the end and was like, it was an 84-minute movie that felt like I'd been sitting there for like 3 hours and was just like, let's get to the end of this, which is never a good sign. And I usually say I like short movies, but in this case, like, this did not work for me.
I think the only time, like, I think the first half of the movie is paced really well. Like, I was still invested. I think it's once they go into that, like, dilapidated factory building thing, that is, I think, where the movie goes downhill a little bit, because I think at that point a lot of it just kind of becomes superfluous. It's just one person running from him in this factory after another and then dying. Nothing super different or interesting happens at that point. But I think before that is where you actually have, like, a build-up that is interesting, like them being too drunk to drive, so then they go to the pizza shop, so then he comes into the pizza shop and he's really creepy, and then he gets kicked out for shitting everywhere, and then they go back to the car and they realize there's a flat. Like, I just think that is, like, a compelling series of events, and once they get into the building, it's no longer a compelling series of events.
It would be more compelling if the women could act really at all in this. Really, actually, not just the women, everyone outside of Art, I feel like was really not good or interesting or compelling. It felt,
but I mean, this movie has, like, no budget at all, so it's not like
I understand.
They're, like, it's not like they could get big stars who get paid a lot.
I said that makes me respect it a little bit more. It felt like sci-fi original quality in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
and like in the way that it felt like it really didn't know what its purpose was other than to be gross, and maybe that is all it was looking for, but. That, for me, it just seemed like that's all it wanted to do. And I wrote, I said it feels like Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I will say its purpose is to be gross.
Yes.
But I don't even think it does that particularly well, because it feels like it's obscene just to be obscene, but not in like a grungy or like a way. Like in a way that I'm feeling like I shouldn't be watching what I'm seeing. It feels very like pristine and almost, like I said, corporate, which is kind of interesting for a low budget film, I guess. But I just don't think it's very successful at even what it sets out to do for that reason. Like if you want to make a snuff film, make it look like a snuff film, right? This wants to be a snuff film, and it doesn't. Think of, obviously,
I think it's a clear comparison to me just because of gross shit. Saw, like how the first movie, it might not show a lot, but because it has so much texture and grit that it makes you feel disgusting.
Yes.
That, I want a more distinct film style like that to be applied to this.
You feel like you're watching something you shouldn't be watching with the first Saw movie. The later ones, not so much. But the first couple, and it feels gross, and this one just never feels gross. It does, I don't know. It does just feel like I said, like corporate obscenity, which is not even obscene. It's not even like stick it to the man at that point. You know,
I actually didn't hide at this movie at all. And am
there's some
a
gross
huge
stuff.
body horror hider, blood. I hide watching House MD sometimes because I'm in a rewatch. That makes me hide more than this has ever made me hide, and that kind of bothers me. I feel like this should be able to make me scream,
and it just does
a little more.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I also said we're going to be really critical. I apologize, but this movie did frustrate me. I wrote, it's like it wants to be Saw, but it's like too lazy to do any groundwork beyond like some gross gore.
What groundwork do you feel like they need to have done?
I'm saying like Saw very much has like a distinct story going on that is like something compelling happening beyond even though I think it's like silly, Saw has the whole like morality of the like what John Kramer is doing. There's like a lot of interesting stuff going on. This is like, I'm not interested in these characters really at all. I know nothing about them. And it really is just, let's put people in situations to get sawn in half long ways. And let's put them in situations for art to mess them up. And that's basically like all we get from it. And that's it. In that way, another thing I wrote was that it wants to be a slasher, but it only understands the part about sucking. Which is
my God, Matt. That's
I'm sorry.
Hardcore, dude.
It really does though. It's like let me take lessons from a bunch of slasher movies, but let me take just the wrong lessons. Does that? Yeah. And I feel like I don't need to elaborate on that. I feel like I've said that. But again, I apologize for being critical. It's just the way it is right now.
In our TikTok live, we were asked, do y'all like Terrifier or no?
No, we don't.
So given all of this thus far, I'm going to say overwhelmingly no. I like Art the Clown at its core. I think it's like a really fun and engaging villain. I honestly do. Mostly because has such a good performance. But overall, I just feel like these other elements of the movie and the story are lacking. And that's why I am kind of curious to watch Terrifier 2 at some point, because I've heard that really does improve upon the universe. And I'm wondering if like the issues that we have are fixed.
It's very possible.
But who's to say? Because I haven't seen it. So
I think if this is trying to be a slasher homage, the better homage around the same time is Malignant.
Oh my God.
In so many ways, it fits all the boxes I'm looking for. This isn't even like campy.
I don't think this is supposed to be a slasher homage. But
you don't think so? Okay, I feel like it's supposed to be. It's trying to both be Saw and a slasher film, but.
I mean, yeah, I guess because it's some guy going around murdering people.
Sure.
But
I just think it took like the worst parts of both of those and put it into one movie. Other than it had a good villain in Art, mostly because the actor is good and having a mime be a killer is entertaining.
Yes. Yeah, I just wish that they took this really cool character and put it somewhere else.
Yeah. I have to go through my notes because I did kind of block this movie out after we watched it. A compliment for it was I actually thought it at least committed to a visual style. It had a distinct looking style. It was lit okay. And maybe it was that kind of corporate look I was saying.
Yeah, I don't understand the visual style that your comment took on, because this didn't feel like anything above a commercial.
I thought it... You don't think so? Okay, maybe I'm wrong then. This one, it felt like it had, like, it was an odd style. It was kind of weird, but at least it like kind of had committed to it for the whole movie.
Yeah, you need to elaborate on what that means. Like, what is the style then? You're just saying it committed to something.
I don't know how the best way to put it. I thought it was lit fine. I was saying that while it looked corporate, it was very like clean textured looking. Like there was no texture. It was like very like clean cut in a lot of ways, which I guess my point is it had like, it was going for something and stuck to it. I can't explain exactly what that style was. I apologize. But I'm saying it at least had a style. It wasn't just like, let's throw everything out there. It was consistent in that way, yes. I don't know how to explain what it looked like. I did complain that I don't like how clean it is because of what it's trying to do. But I guess that style could work in another film is what I mean. It wasn't like a bland.
Like the substance.
It wasn't bland. Yes, like the substance, yes.
Yeah. How did you feel about the way the movie opened and closed with this like kind of frame story there?
I think it was a twist that was unnecessary. I think it was fun to have this woman. I was actually most interested in this. That was the best effect too, I think, is this deformed woman telling her story.
Yeah, the face was really gross.
I found that to be one of the most interesting and compelling points, and to like have it be this like twist, like, oh, it all took place a year before, this is her, like, just wasn't necessary. I think we could have either known that that was coming, or we could have had that scene at the end. I think that also would have been pretty interesting to throw that at the very end. But I feel like they were looking to get some kind of like hook.
Yeah, I think I liked the hook, and then I don't necessarily feel like we needed it to close out that way. Yeah, like you were saying. I'm
trying to like think about why they would want to do it that way, and I think it's really, I just think it was we wanted to have a little
shock
twist.
Value.
We just want to have a little shock twist.
Well, I think the whole movie is kind of relying on shock value when it comes to the blood and gore, when it comes to the way people die, when it comes to the way it opens and closes. This movie is really trying for shock value. Mm-hmm. And I do think that opening scene is really successful at that. I think sawing a person
in half shock value.
Is doing that. I just don't think it's consistently the most successful doing that, which is unfortunate since I do see that as one of the movie's primary goals.
And so I have a comparison. Something that I think does a much better of shocking me, because when they remove that blanket and she's naked and upside down, you're like, oh my God, he's going to saw her in half. Like, no way they're actually going to do that. And you're supposed to like feel very anxious and tense, and then it happens and you're like, it's kind of just obscene that it keeps happening. I think a comparable scene would be the cliff jumping scene in Midsommar.
Ah.
When they show that cliff, they let you on it for a while. Like, oh my God, are they going to make them jump off of it? No way. No way they're going to make them jump off of it. And then it happens, and it's like so fast and scary that you are like horrified. And I feel like this never gets to that height. And I feel like it should have probably been constructed similarly. Like when she's shown, that's your first thought is, oh my God, like, is he going to saw her in half? And you're like, you don't even imagine they're going to commit to it.
I also think part of it too is, we've talked about this in other episodes, how when you see something too in depth, it loses some of the value to it. And I think more the idea of her getting sawed in half is what is really horrifying.
Versus it actually happening.
Us continuing to see something go through a person, and then it looks kind of fakey at that point. And it I think it loses some of what's so horrible.
I agree with you. Yeah. It's just like, it's just not great. I mean, maybe this might be for some people. It's not for me.
You're not one of them.
It's not for me. And it's not because it's body horror. It's just because I find it kind of boring and not interesting.
Yeah. What I wrote for that scene specifically was, we didn't need to see all of that. It doesn't make it scary or funny or cool or interesting, so I don't know what you're trying to do.
I was so mean in my comments. I said this is a pick-me movie. It's very much like, look at me, I'm so quirky and gross, don't you think? Guys, look at me. But again, I feel a little more bad when I look at the budget. That recontextualizes, because it's pretty impressive for the budget. And you don't really have a lot of time to do all that. It feels like it's more of a passion project to get someone into the industry, which it did. But I guess it did too well, so now he's to make a Terrifier 2 and 3 and keep one-upping himself.
Yeah, but apparently 2 has good reviews, and so does 3 so far.
Okay, so well then maybe we go to those ones.
Maybe we just eat our fucking
our words. And if it fixes all of the complaints I have, then that's fine.
Then so be it.
Yep.
How did you feel about his... So, you know how a lot of times serial killers in movies, in real life especially, kind of have this modus operandi, they kill people in a certain kind of way. They kill a certain type of person. Art doesn't have that. Art's not killing a specific type of person using a specific type of weapon. He's kind of just going after whoever the fuck walks by, which is fine. As a spree killer, that's also, that happens. But what do you feel like? Did it, bother you at all? Did the weapon suddenly pulling out a gun after he's been shooting people the whole time? Did that bother you?
Him pulling out a gun was hilarious. That was actually one of the moments that gave me life during the movie. Was all of a sudden he pulls out a gun and you're like, oh, because he gets someone else gets the upper hand on him, and that was very funny to me. I do find that motivation is usually pretty entertaining for these characters, especially in slashers, and not really knowing who he's going after or why. I think it's not a requirement, but it might have been nice when I felt like I had no other context for anything else in the movie. That would have maybe added some intrigue. Because even if you look at the greats, like Michael Myers, is coming out and goes home on Halloween and basically just sees somebody and goes after them.
He kills anyone that feels like he's in his way to going home.
Well, yeah, being home. Anyone he just sees, he just stumbles across, right? And is like, all right, I'm down. And that's very much...
It kind of feels like that's what Art's doing.
But this is very much
I see you, I kill you.
But he was on his way home from something. And he had already done it.
He's on a mission.
He's on a mission to get there and then just goes, oh, well, I guess I'll just keep doing this again. Freddy Krueger, obviously, we know exactly why he's getting revenge. Jason Voorhees, also kind of revenge. I don't like Jason very much, though. I don't like those movies. And
I have no analysis of that, so having only seen the
Malignant, we know why Gabe is doing what Gabe's doing. And this one, I just maybe would have been a little more interested, especially at a point where Art decides to wear the cat lady's skin and like specifically like her breasts are still on. I was like, what are we trying to say here? Is there something like, because he does like suck his thumb and like has this like motherly moment with him, but then he just kills her and it's like, oh, does he have mommy issues like Jason? Like, oh, we don't really know.
Yeah, nothing.
We're just gonna have her die off screen.
I did feel like him skinning a woman kind of felt again like another thing for shock value that doesn't add anything into the psyche of the character.
And is it gonna be a Silence of the Lambs thing? And it's like, no, it's not that. He's just weird. He's just quirky. He's like, he's a pick-me. The movie's a pick-me.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't need him to skin anybody. I guess that's like gross and scary if there was a consistent skinning theme or threat of skinning.
It doesn't. I'm gonna go through all my meme notes. Another thing I wrote was it kind of feels like you asked an elementary or middle school student to write what a scary movie is. Like, here, write something for me, and they go, well, first the bad guy kills this person, and then this person shows up and he kills this person, and he kills this person. And there's just people showing up, getting killed, and just nothing more to it than that. And if that's what you want, then this is for you. But like, it's just not the style of film that I want. And I don't think I'm being nitpicky. I feel like I'm coming up with reasonable complaints for what I want out of a film.
I think you're being pedantic, Matt.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if we get that YouTube comment again. But okay. I don't know if I have any other mean comments. Do
you have anything else that's like anything nice to say? Besides art?
No,
the repeated
I don't.
Compliment?
I don't see what the fun of this is or like the intrigue of it. But if you feel that way, comment it or let us know.
Yeah, I'd like to know if you think we're wrong. This is one of those where I would genuinely like to know why, because clearly there is an audience for this movie and it's just not us, and I want to know what makes you a member of that audience.
And it's not because we are out on body horror. We are fine with body horror and we have body horror movies that we like. I just prefer my body horror to have like a little more of a purpose.
Yeah.
You know. And that's like, again, I have a complaint with the later Saw movies. However, you have this intricate, silly ass soap opera also going on that makes me really enjoy it between my dumb torture porn body horror. And also like the traps are entertaining enough. So you get a little bit out of all of that. And this one, it's like, let's just see how Art can kill a person next. Yeah,
Saw's at least funny because like I can watch Saw movies and not look at like half the scenes because they're too gross. But then I'm still like, damn, that story was crazy. And then I can't believe he's still working for him. And even though he did that to it.
There's like a extremely intricate, silly story happening that is still very entertaining.
Yeah.
And mostly good performances. Even though I know there's complaints about the first movie, I kind of love it. So I love the not complaints about the first movie, complaints about the acting in the first movie. I love it.
Yeah, there's some issues, but it's campy and it's fun, so it's fine. Did you have a favorite scene from this movie?
Either when he pulls the gun out, because I felt like I was falling asleep until that moment.
Was so funny.
Or I did like the interview at the beginning. I thought the effects on that woman at the beginning were really scary, and that unsettled me a lot. So
I agree. Those are probably my like two highlight scenes, but I will also say I did think the pizzeria was... I'm going to compliment the pizzeria scene actually, because this as a woman feels kind of not like relatable, but I think it draws on like real fears that women have of like, why is this random fucking person looking at me? Especially this person who looks creepy. And then you're just kind of like, you feel like you have to watch your back constantly, which is what she's doing until obviously she encounters him again. And like, of course, in this movie, she's right. Sometimes we feel that and there's not actually a threat, but because we're women in this society, we have to constantly be on the lookout for a threat because there are threats everywhere. So that scene, I think, kind of played on those feelings for me. So it was successful, but I did also love the friend who then doesn't take it seriously at all and is like taking fucking selfies with him. That was so funny to me. I loved her, honestly. Her performance didn't bother me at all because I thought it was so funny.
Yeah, she was fine. And then she had sawed in half.
R.I.P. girly.
Well, okay. So what do we got next? Anything else?
Was there any scene that you thought was particularly scary? Like a scariest scene?
I guess like the split second of me being like, oh, please don't cut her in half. I don't want to have to look at this. And that was like cool. That was good. That was a good effect. But other than that, no, not really.
Yeah, I didn't find this movie very scary. I also had trouble thinking of a scariest scene. I feel like there was one moment where I might have like gasped or made a noise, but I don't remember when that was, so I can't even comment. And my notes don't help. I mean, probably when we first see the disfigured face. That would be when.
That was, yeah.
That is the scariest scene.
That was one of my favorite effects, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we should watch both. We could have covered both. Or maybe if this one does well, we will cover the second one. And I said,
I don't know if anyone's going to want us to cover the second one, especially if they're a huge Terrifier fan, because we're just being whiny babies.
Hey, it's all right. We're allowed to dislike stuff. I want someone to tell me why they like it, but...
I know, I really want that, and again, I wish we had that on this episode, but that's just not the reality of how that's working.
But I do think my complaints were valid. I don't think they were pedantic, that's the word, right?
Pedantic, yes.
I hope not.
For reference, someone commented on one of our episodes videos saying that we were pedantic.
It was about as above, so below, which I thought I was very favorable to. So no, I was not. I wasn't nitpicky, is what I'm saying.
You were kind of bitchy in the beginning of that episode,
but
you didn't stop being bitchy.
I
kept trying to compliment it, and then you'd be like, "No," and then you repeat the same complaint over again.
Was it a valid complaint, though?
I didn't agree, actually. Okay, so that's why maybe that's why I'm theorizing they thought you were pedantic, not me. But maybe it's both of us.
I don't know.
Comment below who's the bigger problem, Matt or me.
I think my criticism here was valid. So
no, I mean, we have the same criticism for this movie. Yeah. So if we're pedantic, we're both pedantic this time, I guess.
Well,
if we're nitpicky, it's both of us.
We got through this one really quick. We're only like 30 minutes. Is there anything else we got to talk about with it, or do we want to rate and be done? Just have a short episode this week.
Did it mean anything?
Oh, that's right. Did it mean anything?
No.
I totally forgot about that. No, I think its purpose is like, let's be gross. It doesn't... You maybe could try to argue it's trying to say something about like women's safety and like how you were talking about before, how like women do kind of have to be very careful how they react to men around them because you never know what man out there is just going to like snap and
I do think that if it's trying to say anything or trying to do anything besides be gross or shocking, that is what it's trying to say. And I know that people had previously commented and accused the director actually of potentially being like transphobic or problematic because he skins a woman and wears their boobs. I think it's just for shock value. Yes, it's not supposed to... I don't think that means anything. I can understand why that would make someone uncomfortable or like not want it to be there. And I think obviously we've had that conversation about Silence of the Lambs where it is very much a huge topic of conversation in that film and novel. But I was kind of reading some of his interviews about that, and he was like, that was the most shocking criticism I've gotten for any of these films. And it, like, that one kind of hurt me because that is definitely not my goal. And he kind of talked about having this like feminism, support women motive and like personal belief moral. So yeah, I could see that kind of being what the intention of this movie is showing. I just think the bigger intention of this movie is to be icky. Yes, I agree with you. And like I said, maybe we'll watch the other one, see if they advance Art as a character at all. But all right, you want to rate then? Yeah, I'm gonna be really mean again. I wrote a good joke here. Oh no. I don't know if I feel this way. I said, this movie tells you what it's going to be right at the beginning after Art leaves the bathroom. Shit. Matt, that's a good one, but oof, that's rough, dog.
It's a 2 out of 10 for me.
Oh! Wow, okay.
Maybe it's a 2 out of 10. I'm standing by it.
Is that what you gave Annabelle?
Yeah. I think Annabelle's probably more entertaining than this, but Annabelle's a stupid movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide which I think is worse. I think I gave Annabelle a 3, which makes me want to give this roughly the same thing.
A 3?
Yeah.
3 out of 10?
Probably a 3 out of 10.
You're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah. But then I will say the one reason part of me wants to give this a 4 is because art is so good. Like, the character design and the performance is so good, but I don't know if that saves it from the other issues. They don't do anything
interesting with him. That's the shame of it.
Well, that's why I'm hoping Terrifier 2 and 3 does more with this really fucking iconic character. I understand why people would think Art is iconic. He's scary. He's funny.
He is funny. I'll give him that.
Man has a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
When he's not, slicing you in half.
And he's immortal. We didn't really know that until the end. That's also kind of interesting. I don't need to know why he's immortal, but it's kind of an interesting thing to throw in at the end.
Well, and it didn't even bother me because I was like, Michael has the same thing. They all kind of have that same thing
Jason
going
and Michael
for
are
him.
both kind of zombies.
So whatever, fuck it, he can be too. I don't care.
Yeah.
But having the knowledge that he
I'm telling you,
was supernatural in the other iterations is interesting.
You tried to say earlier you didn't think it had that much slasher influence. It 100% does. The immortal thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is slashing people.
Yeah. Women scantily clad, making silly decisions and getting cut in half naked. Come on. Mm-hmm. It's trying to be Friday the 13th. But it forgot that Friday the 13th is not very good. And it also kind of forgot to be campy other than Art being silly.
Well, before we close out, I did want to share I have been watching a butt ton of spooky movies because it is spooky season. So if you check out our YouTube shorts or our TikTok, we have a ton more short reviews posted.
Yeah.
Not full episodes. Yeah, basically whenever I work from home, which is most days, I've been watching a movie while working.
Better hope your employers don't hear this.
I'm still working. You can look at my daily log, guys. I'm doing a lot of work. I recently watched the new Salem's Lot, watched The Platform 2. So those are 2 new releases I've watched.
I kind of liked The Platform.
The Platform is good. The Platform 2 was not.
I heard Salem's Lot.
It's actually really interesting.
Was not very good.
The same thing.
Oh, it's the same thing. I heard Salem's Lot was not very good, but that the best adaptation of Salem's Lot is actually Midnight Mass. And I was like, oh, that makes sense.
I was thinking that as well, how similar they are. And then I was like, wow, Midnight Mass makes me feel so many things. That makes me cry. And Salem's Lot, I was kind of giggling at how bad some of it was.
I can't give the Twitter person credit, but they said that Salem's Lot or Midnight Mass is the best Stephen King adaptation, not written by Stephen King.
Yeah. Well, props to Mike Flanagan for being compared to
Did I say Salem's Lot or Midnight Mass? I think I might have misspoke there. Midnight Mass is the best.
Yes, I think that is what you said,
okay,
or
cool.
At least I processed what you were saying.
Okay.
Yeah, props to Mike Flanagan for being compared to one of the greatest living horror writers of all time.
Yeah. Well, okay. Anything else?
Don't watch Salem's Lot.
And listen to our podcast.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good for me.
Sorry if you're mad at us for not liking this one, but...
Sorry if you're mad at us because we didn't put out enough content for you this week. Only 39 minutes of podcast.
I know. Well, it's all right. We'll get them with a good one next week. What do we cover next week? Any idea?
Beetlejuice and Beetlejuice 2.
Are we actually?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay.
Happy spooky season, folks. See you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Horror Hour with the Hannahs. Make sure to listen to future episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you can find podcasts. You can follow us at Horror Hour with the Hannahs on TikTok and Instagram for more content. If you like the podcast, please follow and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app. Happy hauntings!